Hey there, blade fans. Drum roll. Something special is coming out of this little box that I got the other day. Little mini pelican, if you will. And it came from a designer and company known as D Rocket. I've been following him on Instagram for some time now. And I would say he is like a jeweler of knives. He is an engineer by trade and works with making these exquisite, generally smaller creations. However, I just gifted a knife for his birthday to Bob DeMarco, the knife junkie, that was designed by this same man. And it was a 4-inch bladed knife for artisan called the Hyperion. That's just a little side note. Here we go. As far as I know, the first and only out the front knife made entirely of Ultem. And we're going to talk about Ultem in a minute because I knew very little about it. I figured it's just a yellow plastic, but it's showing up on so many mid-tech knives. And I believe Daryl Caston, the man behind D Rocket Designs, has lost my train of thought. He is one of the first ones that I'm aware of that has made this OTF or anything like it, an automatic knife, entirely from Ultem. So let's take a look at it. This is the Zulu, and it is designed after an African Zulu tribe spear, I believe. It is from M690. M390. I think by afternoon my mind's kind of spent on the job. But there's his logo, the rocket, with, I believe, the D inside. It's kind of faint on this one because it is a smaller blade, thus it is a smaller logo. And you can see all of the insides. There have been some knives where they will use a clear or smoky or maybe even Ultem on one side. But I believe this is the first OTF to have the entire body made from Ultem. However, the switch, the actuator, as far as I know, is steel. And if Daryl is watching this, he can validate that one way or the other. Before we go much further, I want to tell you a little bit more as you stare at this beauty. A little more about Ultem, because I had to learn a little bit about it, and I did. Okay, so now Ultem is a high-performance thermoplastic material known for its exceptional strength, heat resistance, and chemical resistance. It is a brand name for a family of amorphous thermoplastic polyethyramide, PEI, resins developed and manufactured by SABIC, Saudi Basic Industries Corporation, a global petrochemical company. Some key properties and characteristics of Ultem include high temperature resistance, chemical resistance, electrical insulation, high strength. And in this case, we would want to know that that high strength means Ultem exhibits high tensile strength and stiffness, which makes it a strong and durable material, low flammability, and high dimensional stability. So I'm going to let you screenshot that if you want. There you go. So freeze frame on it, should you need to. And let's look a little further at this guy and maybe take some measurements on it. There is a Wharncliffe style in this same knife, and there may be other blade styles, and he is thinking of making it modular so you can perhaps in the future buy the blade you want, buy the handle you want, mix and match the handle colors. He makes this in aluminum as well. I just love the Ultem. It looks like amber, and I used to cut stones in another lifetime. And amber is a very, very neat, sweet material. We're going to call it 7 inches to the clip. And we're going to call the blade like a 2.8, okay? Close enough. With my calipers here, 0.37 handle width. Oh, by the way, he's coming out with leather pouches that fit over this where you can use the whole knife that's got an opening for the blade and the switch and whatnot, and the clip. Custom-made leather, how about that? Well, let's see if we can grab this right at the base so we get the stock thickness. It's only 0.08, which in little itty-bitty millimeters is 2.2. So pretty thin blade stock and definitely a thin handle. However, the handle is a hand's width for me, maybe a little over actually. And I've got a medium large hand. Let's take a look at the point here if we can. It's pretty thin in the cross section. Don't know if we're going to be able to do this. Let's try it another way. If I back out, I get better macro ability here. There it is. Pretty thin blade and point. But I've got to tell you, I don't know who the OEM is. I'm pretty sure he's not grinding these himself. But the grinds are exquisite for how fine and detailed they need to be on such a small and thin knife. Yeah, maybe that center is off just a bit. So I do have to say that that center grind line, and I'm being picky, does appear, might just be the light. Yeah, it's kind of the light, but it does seem to be just a hair off center. Boy, that is prickly too. You got to be real careful you don't accidentally run your finger into that tip. For the complexity of the tip, and he may have even engineered this tip so it's got a little extra thickness. Sometimes I know on the Vandal Pical knife that they change the end grind to 30 degrees in order to reinforce it, and it looks like you're doing something like that here. But dead center right there, which is more or less what counts. Action, snappy. A little bit of a ring, a little bit of spring ring on the retraction. And he has a complete video on how to disassemble this. So no one's saying you can't take this apart, but do be careful, obviously. Look how deeply those screws are set into the Ultem. They go almost all the way through to the other side. Here we can even see the gates for locking it, and the gate back here for retraction. The pocket clip is, as far as I can tell, not switchable, but there's no real need for it to be, since left or right hand carry, you're going to have your thumb, your right thumb here. If you carry it on the left side, you're going to have your left thumb there. So it doesn't really need to be switchable. It's more or less ambidextrous. We didn't get the weight. I've been doing that lately. Got everything but the weight, but this will be in the screen, on the screen, when it pops up for the other measurements. Here we go. Surprise, surprise. 1.47, we're going to call that, ounces. Under 2 ounces. And it's definitely, you carry this all day long. And it is, by the way, there is almost zero lock, rock, and blade play, which for an OTF is like amazing. Microtechs have, I would say, twice as much wiggle and wobble. You can barely see it. So I've got a good maybe half a dozen OTFs or so, and this is the tightest one, I will have to say. Comparing to Microtech Dirac, and I don't know if that's Dirac or Dirac. I believe it's Dirac, named after Paul Dirac, the physicist. The Dirac is ever so slightly longer, and a blade ever so slightly longer. And of course, it's got the glass breaker on there, so if we pull it back a little bit and don't count the glass breaker, it's the same size. And just a little narrower, and definitely even thicker, believe it or not, than the Ultem handled Zulu. Another compare. Here's the compound from Hogue. It's going to be a bigger knife. At least 1.25 inches overall. 1 3/4 inches if we go there. And maybe about 1/2 inch or more blade length. By the way, this has an aluminum frame on the compound. Not sure the compound is made anymore. It might be. Metal button, the G10 Damascus outer shell, and aluminum on the inside, as I said. This is the more recent Counter-Strike, also from Hogue, with a Tanto blade. And it's about the same size as the compound, about 1.5 inches longer overall, and about 3/4 inch longer blade, thereabouts, something like that, 1/2 inch. About the same thickness here. This is a much thicker handle, taller handle, not thicker. As you can see, if we put them all away, that this is about the same height. Maybe this is a little taller. This is definitely the widest or tallest one. And then as far as the thicknesses go, I'm not sure I can stand them all up. Yeah, that's pretty thick. That's a little less thick. And this is certainly the slimmest. Let's see if I know what I'm talking about here. 0.45, 0.37. Wow. 0.38. So I'm going to correct that if I had that wrong earlier, or if I didn't include it. Some real neat touches, by the way, in this design. You see the way this is dished out? This is for your thumb to slide down. And there's actually ridges in here that allow your, kind of guide your thumb onto the switch. Really neat. And you have these grips here. Someone asked me if this was slippery. The material itself is really not that slippery. It's actually got some resin-like, hear that? Drag to it. So no, it is not a glass-like smoothness to it. There you can see the blade inside. There you can see the grips up here. Very nice. So when we got it open, you can definitely get a good hold on it this way. Definitely have a nice Pical grip on it. With my full hand and capping it, should you want to do this. Kind of a fine point. I don't know that I'd want to have this meeting any bone in any assailant, but Certainly, if you need something quick, this will open more than letters. Just a gorgeous knife. Again, a work of art that could be in amber. I mean, it could be in the real deal amber gemstone material. How about a last compare with a Griptilian? So it's a small knife, but it ain't miniature by any means. So again, there you go. This is the Zulu out the front knife by D-Rocket Designs. I will leave you the link. You can purchase it directly from his website. And he is always open to questions. A lot of back and forth I see on Instagram. I'll make sure you have that as well. So be well, take care, and don't forget to give this video a like. I'll be back soon.